Hello?
Yo, what's up?
What's up?
Do you have any arguments that God exists?
There's a bunch of different ones.
Sorry, what?
There's a bunch of different ones.
Yeah, like what?
Have you heard the argument for motion?
Like the Aristotelian proof?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what issues do you have with it?
I mean, do you have it premise to conclusion format?
Well, you're saying Aristotelian, so you're probably talking about Ed Fazer's one, right?
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
I could get the book. I don't know.
All right.
I mean, do you have the book or do you know it?
I mean, I don't know it off the top of my head. That's why I'm asking.
All right, let me see if I can find this book. Alright, Neoplatonic proof, Thomistic proof. It's the Aristotelian one, right?
Yeah.
Alright. Let me see where he puts the premises. His is kind of long, though, so... Dang, it's been a minute since I read this. Alright. You sure you don't want to just go through the basic 5? Because there's he has 50 in this one.
Yeah, just give the premises you want and then the conclusion God exists.
Change is real. Change is the actualization of potential. No potential can be actualized unless something already actualizes it.
Word?
I was just going to use Thomas's. This is easier.
All right, yeah, you can do that.
All right. All bodies are either potentially in motion or actually in motion. All right, let's see.
Wait, all bodies.
Nothing can be reduced from potential.
Hold on. All bodies are either potentially in motion or potentially not in motion, right?
Yeah.
All right.
But nothing can be reduced from potentiality to actuality except by something in a state of actuality. Nothing can be at once in both actuality and potentiality.
Hold on, I'm writing it down. Hold on.
Okay.
Nothing can be reduced from potentiality to actuality.
Nothing can be at once in Nothing can be reduced from potentiality to actuality except by something in a state of actuality.
Okay.
Nothing can be at once in both actuality and potentiality in the same respect. Therefore, nothing can be at once in both actuality and potentiality with respect to motion. Therefore, nothing can move itself. It must be put into motion.
How long is this argument?
It's only it's 8, but this is a weird one.
Okay.
It's 8 premises.
Jesus. Can you just copy and paste it in the chat or something?
That might take longer than me just telling you, honestly. Did you see any problems with the first premises yet?
I mean, the first thing I want to do is see if it's valid. It's usually what the first thing is with arguments.
All right. Yeah, we'll just use this one. All right. I've lost where I was. I just click on it. I don't have it. Oh, there it is. Which one did you stop at?
Premise 4. I didn't get that one down yet.
Therefore, nothing can be at once in both actuality and potentiality with respect to motion. Therefore, and then 5 is therefore nothing can move itself. It must be put into motion by something else. If there were no 6 is if there were no first mover moved by no other, there would be no motion. But there is motion, therefore there is a first mover, God. So I think instead of motion, you might want to use the word change.
Okay. Well, it looks like a lot of this is like superfluous. Like you could just had the last supremacies.
And only?
Like, are you just saying the last supremacies was if there is no first mover, then there would be no change, but there is change, so there is a first mover, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
you
want to
only
explain
need
that.
the last supremacies for that.
So what was your issue?
I mean, the first thing is just that the argument's like superfluous. Like you don't need all the other premises.
Yeah, but what's the issue with the arguments, though?
I mean, after that, like, it's unclear. Like, well, what exactly is meant by God here? Like, just a first mover? Like that's it.
Yeah.
All right. And then what? Well, what is a first mover supposed to be?
Something that's purely actual.
Well, I don't know what that means.
That means it doesn't change.
Okay.
It's always in a state of act.
Well, I don't know what a state of act is there. Like, I don't like, for instance, like I don't know what act or potency distinctions are. Like, typically just think that's gibberish.
You don't know what act or potency is?
No.
Okay, so potency is like when something has the potential to be something else. Like,
Okay.
you know, like in physics where you have like potential energy.
Yeah. Like it's, but I don't know like exactly what's being said there by potential energy. Like, just
It
that
has
it's
the
like
potential to be actual.
Yeah, but then like, are you just understanding that in like a modal way? Like it's possible or something?
I mean, yeah.
Like it's possible it exists?
No, it's possible for it to do that.
Do what?
To be in whatever act that it was going to be in.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like when you say like actually.
Like food has the potential to be hot. It's
Okay.
made hot by like heat.
Well, it has like it's possible that it has that property.
What do you mean has that problem? Yeah. Yeah,
Like
to be
give
hot.
me an example where like food can be hot,
Yeah.
right? Okay, yeah, it's possible it has that property. Wait, then are you like what modality are you like typically indexing like potency to?
What's the different types?
Like logical, nomological, temporal, deontological,
Temporal.
deontic. Those are
What is deontic modality?
just like moral modality. You could say like
Okay, yeah, no. Okay, I was just making sure that's what that was. Probably logical.
logical. Wait, but like Aristotelians don't typically think that like a ball, like a cotton ball, can just become fire, right? Like that's one of its like potencies, right?
Yeah, it has to be by something else.
Well, but it's logically possible that poof, it just becomes like a fireball, though. Why not? Like,
That's logically possible?
yeah,
How?
it doesn't entail a contradiction, and it's a logically consistent set. I mean,
So what were the other two that you were saying?
temporal and nomological. So the set of worlds that you're quantifying over just like, or it just has identical like laws of nature as our world.
Is that another word for metaphysical?
Sorry, what?
Is that another way of saying like metaphysical?
No.
So what would be the difference between that and metaphysical?
Well, I don't typically use metaphysical modalities because I don't really like. I also hash that up to be gibberish as well. So I don't know what the difference would be.
Okay. So what was your issue with the logical modality?
Like, because for instance, a lot of Aristotelians want to say that like a cotton ball becomes fire, right? Like, or a cotton ball has the potentiality or potential to like become just fire, like just snap, like out of nowhere, right? They want to say that that's like false, but if you're indexing that to a logical modality, then you have to say it's true, right? Because there's no contradiction there.
So what type of modality would you say they use then?
Well, I don't know. That's why I say that it's gibberish.
Interesting.
Yeah, so that's like one major issue. There's like various
And where
others.
can I look at that from?
I mean, this is just what I thought about. Like, where can you study modal logic? Is that what you're asking? Like modalities and whatnot?
Yeah, because I still gotta look at like S5 and different things like that.
Oh, that's not really a modality. I mean, that's just an axiom.
Yeah, I gotta look at like all of them literally.
You can read Eric Steinhardt's like, I think it's like chapter 4 of more precisely the math you need to do the math you need to do philosophy or something like that. And then there's like Kane D's like YouTube videos on it. Just like watch like his videos on modal realism and modal logic.
So you would argue that, for instance, there's nothing inherently wrong with saying that that could just turn into a bunny rabbit per se.
Yeah, like a cotton ball turns into a bunny rabbit, right? That's possible. If you're talking about logical modality, right? Because that world doesn't have a contradiction in it.
So when it says, so that's your issue that you have with potentiality.
Yeah, and like just act potency distinctions in general, just don't really understand.
That's an interesting way of looking at that.
I mean,
And
like where do you want to move on from this? Like, I don't know what we can do.
no, I'm actually like curious about. I'm actually curious about that one. That is interesting that you would say that. So you would agree that change exists, though, right?
Well, that's asking me like, do I agree? Blah 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 exists, right? I don't know what change is when you like use act potency.
Because you don't like acting potency.
Yeah, because I don't know what that is. Yeah.
That's actually funny. I like this. I'm gonna look into this actually.
Yeah. So I mean, that would be like problems with like the only premises you would need, which are just P6 and P7, because both of that has change in it, which you just reduce to like I don't know, like maybe like the way that like SMID defines it or Feezer, like when potency is reduced to act or something like a reduction of potency to act. I just don't know what that means, so it just seems gibberish.
I see where you're coming from, though. So you would say that this would have to be like a presupposition of something, that potentiality would have to be something that's like, well, it wouldn't be of a logical modality. It would have to be of something like, say, if someone agreed with like a metaphysical modality.
Like, are you just asking me like, could you invoke a metaphysical modality to explain what's going on here?
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, but then I also think metaphysical modalities are gibberish, like from what I've read on them. So, I mean, that
Why do
wouldn't
you
help
think
me.
that?
Maybe it would help someone else.
So why would you think that?
Oh, why do I think that? I mean, just like take like the way Papineau describes metaphysical modality, just as like something is possible if it doesn't violate the essential properties of things or something. Right? But what are essential properties? Just essential properties are just like these sorts of things. Like you can understand like in a day ray necessity. So like maybe we want to say like Jordan necessarily is human. That's an essential property you have. And you can understand that by saying like in all the possible worlds in which Jordan Travis exists, he is also human, right? He also has that property. And that's not to say that you exist in all possible worlds, just to say that in all the worlds that you do exist, you have that property. Now, if you're understanding it in that way, it's unclear like still what exactly the modality is, or just the constraint on like what set of worlds he's quantifying over. Papineau here. I can explain more. That may have gotten a little messy.
Yeah, could you more detail about that one?
Okay, let me think. So, yeah, so what Papineau is saying, like something's impossible if it or metaphysically impossible if it violates essential properties that an object has. But essential properties are just understood and next to like worlds, so we don't really know what exactly
So there could be like a different possible world where something just wouldn't be the case.
Uh, I mean, yeah, like logically, yeah,
Essentially.
but it doesn't really make sense. Like, what exactly like that modality is supposed to be? At least not to me, because um, because that also seems to be indexing to like a set of worlds. Whenever someone says essential properties, that's indexed to a set of worlds. So he's kind of just saying like, you know, if something's metaphysically like necessary, then that's going to be indexed to a set of worlds. But I don't know what that set is, right? Like, what are the worlds in that set? Like, that's the sort of question I would ask, like Papanu, like,
And who did you say that was?
huh?
Who did you say that was? I think I have his book.
David Papanu, he describes it in his book Philosophical Devices.
Yeah, I think I got that one. I still have to read that one.
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. So your whole contention is that you don't know what like change actually is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So even if I was to say like it's the state of going from one state to a different state, that would have to be what? That might be temporal. I don't know.
Like, does that just mean like you add one property that wasn't there, or you subtract a property that wasn't there?
Yeah, let's just say that.
I think I would understand that, but then I would probably just ask, what's the argument for one of the premises?
Which one?
Um, uh, probably premise 6. By the way, I just like reduced down your argument to just 2 premises, which is the last two in the
Yeah,
conclusion.
that's fine. So premise 6 was if there were no first mover. Which one did I say? Oh, the last two. So premise 6 would be if there were no first mover moved by no other, there would be no motion moved by.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's the one you would have the issue with. Why that would be the case?
Yeah, I would need like an argument for that.
So I'm assuming you don't believe in like causal finitism then.
Yeah, I don't commit to that.
And why wouldn't you commit to that?
I mean, I also would need probably an argument for that as well.
So like for instance, like would you take examples or you need like premises for that?
What do you mean examples? Like, how is that going to prove causal finitism?
Okay, like for instance, if I had like a whole bunch of surge protectors plugged up together, like in an infinite loop, there still wouldn't be any power from it because it doesn't have an ultimate power source. Because you can have like, for instance, what's the word? You probably know what I'm saying. What's the word that Phaser uses? It's not temporal, but it's like a hierarchical series.
Yeah, a hierarchical series. Yeah.
Yeah. So my question would be like, how would you have that first supply of that quote unquote power without the first power source?
For what?
For anything, like for the cause in general.
Wait, for what cause?
Like for anything changing.
Oh, how would you get the power for like predicates being added and subtracted at later times? I don't really know. Like, what is power supposed to mean? Like, just energy? I mean,
like the ability, like the actuality, or if you want.
Okay, wait,
we're using different words
because if you mean like energy, then the answer would be like the energy didn't like come about from anywhere. It was sort of always there. I don't think energy is like created or destroyed.
Yeah, I'm not talking about like power, like in general. I'm talking about like for that predicate to be added.
So are you just talking about like how is it possible that those predicates are added at later times or subtracted at later times?
Yeah, not necessarily time though.
I mean, I thought that was just what you meant by change.
Yeah, just adding a predicate.
Yeah. Okay. So it's possible just because like the set of worlds you're quantifying over like has that proposition as true in just like at least one of them. So like if it's logically possible, like it would be logically possible. I mean, that's one explanation. It's physically possible. It's like I mean, yeah. So it's temporally possible. Like, there's no like contradiction with any of those sets of
Yeah,
worlds.
but what supplies the causality though?
Yeah, but I mean, I already said like there wouldn't be like a supplier here. Like it would kind of always be there.
It would just be like that.
Yeah, in the same way like God's eternal and everything.
Yeah, but if it changes, it goes from one state to a different state though.
Yeah, it goes from one state to a different state.
What makes it go from that to that different state?
Are you asking like what's the explanation for why predicates are added?
Yeah, like if
Or
you have that
subtracted?
predicate added, but it's like an infinite chain of added predicates, like what causes it to be added?
I mean, you could say like I don't know exactly what you think I'm committing to. Maybe
I
you
don't
could
think you're
say, like,
committed to anything. I'm just asking.
maybe they could say I don't know if I'm committing to that, but maybe they could say like for each n plus one or n minus one would explain n or something. So like the prior like
But you would never get
or-
a explanation though.
wait, I mean there is an explanation. It's just like it's explained in virtue of the prior like the prior member of the series of the infinite series.
Yeah, but if that prior member needs to be explained by that prior member, you're gonna have an infinite number of things that are like not explained.
Wait, how does that mean that it's not explained? Like they're all explaining each other. It's like an infinite series of explanations.
Yeah, but without that prior member, you wouldn't have an explanation, right?
Yeah, but it's part of their like theory that you have that prior like member, so you would have an explanation.
But what causes the explanation? Because all of those are technically unexplained until it has that one before it.
Well, I don't know what you mean until it has that one before it, because if you're talking about like temporally, like
Yeah, not temporally, but I'm just saying like
that sort of member is going to exist before it, right? It's that's what I take it to mean, like it's causing it or whatever. But by the way, this isn't a view I hold. I still
no,
don't
I know. I'm just curious. Like I'm just wondering.
Okay, well, I don't know what this has to do with like the
Because
argument
if you,
from premise.
yeah, because of the causing thing. So this would be that you would need that first cause in order to do these things.
If there was no first mover, there wouldn't be change. Yeah, but
Yeah.
I don't know how that proved, like, just that proposition, like any of that.
Because if you, for instance, if you didn't have that first thing, you would never have that property of change in the first place.
Sorry, what?
If you didn't have that first thing, you would never have that property of change in the first place. Just like you would have no explanation in the first place if it goes infinite.
But that just seems to be like repeating the thing I'm asking for an argument for.
What do you mean? Like repeating like that you would need something
Try
in the
just
first
saying
place?
in a different way. If there was no first mover, then there just wouldn't be any change, and that's what I'm trying to get an argument for.
That's what I'm saying. Like if you don't have that first causal principle, what is causing it?
So it's just going to be every other member in the series prior to it that's causing the next member.
Yeah, but I think that gets into like an infinite regress. Like you don't actually get an
Well, yeah,
explanation.
that's their commitment, right? But I mean, that's just the commitment they have. But none of that, like for instance, I could be agnostic on all of those views. Like my views on that's kind of irrelevant to the argument for the conditional.
I don't see how it would be any other way though.
Okay,
Do you know any
like you have a
sources
reason.
on that go against causal finitism?
Do you want more like sources I can give you to read on it?
Yeah,
There's some stuff I've read in the past.
because I'm gonna
like,
have to talk to Amadeus eventually too. About
like
that.
Alexander Pruse's. He has something on
Yeah, he has it on
Causal
an
finitism.
infinite series.
like Grim Reaper paradoxes.
Paradox, yeah.
Yeah. Other stuff. I mean, I haven't really read that much on it. I mean, I kind of just wanted to know what the argument for P7 was, but
Because that would be the argument that would be presented. Because it seems like impossible for there to be an explanation without any first one.
Okay, but then you're going back to like modal talk there, and then you just have to clarify the modal scope, or sorry, the modality.
As to how it's impossible.
Yeah, like for there to be an explanation.
Interesting. All right, bet. So I'll
And
look
also,
in.
that also is just an invalid argument if that's the only premise there.
Yeah. That's
be
why
like-
it was given like the other arguments. But I get what you mean by that about the modal thing. I'm actually gonna ask. I'm gonna see if I can ask a Thomas about that one because I'm actually curious about that one too.
Yeah, but whether or not you have like multiple arguments going on here, or like there being a first mover, like that doesn't really help with this specific argument being invalid.
Yeah. So which part about this is invalid?
So I asked, what's the argument for the proposition if there is no first mover, then there wouldn't be any change? And then the only thing you said was just it would be impossible for there to be an explanation on causal infinitism or whatever, right? Well, if that's the argument, that's just obviously invalid.
Why?
Because you can accept each premise in the set and reject the conclusion. You should give it an easy counterexample for that using a truth table, for instance.
So you could accept the prior premises and then reject that conclusion?
Yeah. You can. Sorry, you can. You can accept each premise in the like argument and also say that the conclusion's false. So it's just an invalid argument.
About the first mover one?
About the argument for P6.
Yeah, but that would have to do with definitism, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah. I mean, if that's what you hash out like P6 to be talking about, then yeah. But that's still. I mean, your argument's still invalid. So I mean,
How would it, okay, so if causal finitism was true, how would P6 be invalid?
okay. I'm not saying that P6 is invalid. I'm saying that the argument for it is invalid.
The argument for P6 itself?
Yeah, the one that you provided. Remember, it's just premise one. It's impossible for there to be an explanation if causal infinitism is true. And then conclusion, therefore, if there is no first mover, there wouldn't be any change. Like, that's obviously invalid.
Which part of that's invalid? The explanation part?
The argument. Like, the argument's invalid. That's just a property of the argument.
Okay, so what would you need for that argument to be valid?
I mean, there's, like, various things that I could do to, like, explain, like, how you could make that valid. Like, maybe you could say, like, if it's impossible for there to be an explanation on some hypothesis, then that hypothesis is just false or something. Wait, hold on. Let me think about if there is no first mover, there would be no change. Okay, maybe you could just say, like...
Because you would have to tie it
premise
into
one,
that one, right?
You have the antecedent. Premise 2, you have the antecedent implies the conclusion, and then conclusion is just, the, you know, if there is no first mover, there would be no change.
Mm-hmm. So you just have to tie it into, like, basically just, like, have more premises for that specific one.
I mean, yeah, what you could do is you could
tie into it.
modus ponens or something.
Yeah. Okay.
But at this point, it's just invalid. And there's other issues. Like it's hard to see like how it's impossible for a causal infinitist to have an explanation for like any given event, right? Because it's just saying that the prior event to that event explains it, and you know there's infinitely many prior events to any event, so there's just infinitely many explanations. And under that control, it just seems like they would have an explanation. And then, I mean, maybe you want to respond to that, but the third one is just that it's unclear what the modality is for, like when you say it's impossible, like what set of worlds that's quantifying over.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm curious about the modality one too, so I'll ask about that one. So modality, the causal finitism part, I think I just disagree with you on that, on the causal part, but I want to look at the modality. And what was the third one?
Okay, so are you talking about the one that I listed that was just like the second in the list? Like, so maybe the causal infinitist could say something like, for any given n, where n is like some like event that occurs or whatever, there's a prior event, n plus 1 or whatever, that explains n. And so there's infinitely many prior events that explain n.
Yeah, I know that one. I'm talking about there was another one you said besides the modality in that one.
Oh yeah, that the argument's invalid.
Yeah, without the argument for the causal finitism, right?
Well, I don't know what you're talking about. Argument for causal finitism, because
You're saying like the whole thing in general is invalid?
no, I'm not saying the first argument you provided was invalid. I'm just saying that the argument for, I'm taking it to be premise 1 at this point because the other ones were like kind of like superfluous. You didn't need those.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah,
the
that's
argument
it.
for premise one at this point is just invalid.
Yeah, so I would need an argument for why there would need to be a first mover, right?
Well, you already have that argument. You need an argument for one of the premises that are used in that argument, which it seems like you have. It just is an invalid argument.
Yeah, I just haven't put it into like premises yet. So yeah, but that's the causal finitism one, right?
Which
Like
one?
I would have to explain why causal finitism would have to be the case, and then why it would lead into that first mover, right?
Sorry, what are you asking?
I would have to explain why causal finitism would have to be the case and why it would lead into that first mover.
I mean, I don't know why you would have to do that. I'm just saying that for premise one, you just need an argument for that.
Okay. All right. I'll get back to you on the modality thing because that's actually curious. I never heard that one before.
I thought that's like the typical way of objecting to these arguments.
It depends.
Who have
There's
you
probably
debated
an
on?
answer to it, but I never heard that one before.
All right.
Why have you heard an answer to that?
To the modality stuff, no, that's like exactly why I was bringing it up. That's why I take like Fieser's account of change or Aristotle's or Thomas Aquinas' just be like gibberish because I don't know what modality it's under.
And something has to be under a specific modality in order to make an argument for it.
No. So like you were understanding like potency to just be like the potential for something to like have a different property or whatever, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then potential there is just talking about like possibility. So like if I were to
So
say
then
like
it would have to
Jordan-
be under modality, right?
yeah,
So,
like
and
that's
if it
like,
wasn't under modality, it'd be under something else. What was the other one you said?
I mean, if you're not talking about that in like a modal sense, then I just have no clue what you're talking about.
Okay, that's actually interesting. I'm gonna see about that one.
Yeah.
I'm surprised I haven't heard that one before.
Okay. Well, it was nice talking. Is there anything else?
No. You gave me some good sources to look at.
All right.
I was curious. I wanted somebody to give me like a good argument against the motion one, because I had a few arguments of my own, but I like this one better. But appreciate it. Let's see who's next.